Back to the Unstuck Movement. I am your host, Rob Z. Today we have the incredible and powerful Heather Young with us on the podcast. So, Heather, before we do anything else, I love to jump in with a powerful question right at the beginning. You have your So She Slays media platform, over 700,000 followers across that platform, across different social media outlets, and Slay AF Creative Studio, which you launched about 2 years ago. While growing that Slay AF Creative Studio, you had so much on your plate with So She Slays. Adding this onto your plate, I'm sure was a lot to be creating at that point in time. What important lesson had a big impact on you that changed how you run your business as you were implementing the Slay AF Creative Studio?
I think honestly, it's more of a personal change. I think when you are co-founder, when people come to you for questions and answers, and you're directing and managing and all this kind of stuff, I think it's really important to have patience. I am not someone who actively has patience. Like, I have to be conscious in the fact where I'm like, all right, Heather, calm down. We need to have patience. Not everything needs to happen right now, although I wish it would. So I think for me, the biggest lesson was just recognizing my own self-awareness of how much pressure I put on myself, how I tend to want to drive things so fast forward that it ends up being detrimental to my health, not necessarily to the business, but to myself, right? Because I'm super hard on myself, or, things aren't working out as fast as I think they should be working out, or, why isn't this working? Who do I need to talk to? This needs to happen faster. When the biggest lesson to take away from all of that is, if you have patience, you'll be able to just see how things work and play out better. And you'll be able to make more intentional decisions rather than reacting. You can have the vision and trust in yourself to just be like, okay, this is where I think I'm heading. Let's give this a little bit of time to see if where I think I'm heading and the vision that I have is actually what needs to be happening.
Well, it's interesting because you're able to push yourself at a really hard level, and things work when you do that. So the business works, but you break yourself down as that's happening. And so finding that balance is like a really important place to find yourself in your life, to
still
be
working
able to
on it.
manage both. Yeah.
Still working on it, Rob.
And when it comes to patience, what would you say is the biggest thing that slowed you down? What works for you to have patience? Because you can say all day long, I need to have more patience, but something's going to come along in your life that's going to force you to have more patience. What is it for you specifically that helped you to slow that down and pace yourself?
I think I just got tired of being tired. I got tired of being tired. I got tired of being so hard on myself. I got tired of being sick. I got tired of feeling so overwhelmed and so stressed out and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I am one of the co-founders. I'm one of the owners of this. I got into this because yes, we want to help people and we love what we do and so on and so forth. But I also got into it so that I didn't have to feel like, I'm running a rat race in a sense. So it was a little bit of self-awareness that just popped up, and it's like, I'm just tired.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we go off and start something on our own because we want to have that freedom, but then we find out that we are the most difficult boss we could ever have. And so it's learning how to be the best boss for you that can be the biggest challenge and the biggest journey. So I want to introduce, because I didn't introduce the show yet. This is the Unstuck Movement. This platform is to help you break those chains that are holding you back in your life and in your business. Thank you to the Connected Leaders Academy for making this platform possible. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. So Heather Young is the co-founder of So She Slays and Slay AF Creative Studio, platforms and agencies dedicated to empowering women and amplifying underrepresented voices. Alongside her business partner, Chauncey Woods, Heather builds communities and creates content that inspires women to pursue their ambitions. How did So She Slays begin? How long ago did it begin, and how did it start?
So She Slays popped up in 2016, so it's been a minute. And Chauncey is my co-founder, but at this moment in time, she's like my domestic partnership for all intents and purposes. Like we always joke with each other that we're like freaking married or something like that, because we've been best friends for, 10 plus years. We started 2 businesses together. And So She Slays popped up over sangria and some tacos. Uh, like most good things, I feel like. But we were at our favorite restaurant in San Francisco. We had actually met in grad school, and we were so happened to work at the same place too. And we were grabbing something to eat. And at the time, she was very into blogs. She's still a big consumer of blogs, but blogs are not as much of a thing as what they were in 2016. And at that time, I was writing for a lot of different blogs. I was writing for Elite Daily. That wasn't like what it is now. And then I was writing for a couple of magazines in London. So it's like we were just kind of chit-chatting over pop culture, what was happening in lives and all that kind of stuff. And it came to our attention that we were kind of complaining the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of representation for people that look like us and our stories. She's Black and Cuban. I'm half Chinese, half white. And we aren't your traditional type of people that, a lot of society would associate with who we are ethnically. And a lot of times too, at that time in 2016, everything was so sugar coated, and we're not sugar coated people. We are very much unapologetic, in your face. This is life. Sometimes you have a crappy day. Let's talk about it. And sometimes things are great. And then we can talk about that too, but not everything is sugar coated. So it really came out of that, and a need for more representation, a need for truth and authenticity when speaking about life. And literally a few years into it, the So She Slays Instagram went viral, and we got all of these followers, and not all of it just turned into this huge media platform. And now, we have the editorial site with contributors from all over the world. We have 2 podcasts, and then we have our social platforms.
Incredible. So as you were just like for the first couple of years just doing it, did you have any intention of where it was going, or was it just kind of unintentionally putting your voice out into the world and speaking about things that you felt like needed to be talked about that weren't being talked about? Was there an intention behind it, or were you kind of just like seeing where it went and just enjoying it with your friend?
We just saw where it went. We literally did not plan this. It just happened. And it was more or less just like, let's just try it and see where it goes. More than anything, we were just doing it for ourselves. Because we also knew, like, a lot of our friends, we weren't the only ones feeling this way, underrepresented, or life was hard, or trying to figure it out, or finding some sort of motivation. And we just knew that we could provide a little bit of a platform for people to kind of air out their own stories or feel seen.
What caused the viral moment? Was there something that you guys posted that stuck out? What was the thing that caused it to happen?
It was pretty crazy because I don't really know if it was one thing. I know when it happened, the So She Slays crew, we were all in Long Beach, and we went to Complex Con. And then we had the whole day. We were out and we were doing things and posting things and having fun. It was a little bit more of like a bonding retreat rather than like an actual work thing. And we were at dinner, and one of the people that we had on our team was looking at her phone, and she was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "What?" She's like, "We literally just gained 2,000 followers." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so a few hours went by, and she's like, "You guys, we just gained 5,000 followers." And then like by the next week, we were just gaining followers like crazy. And it was nuts. I have never seen something like that ever. And we were like, is this real? Like, is this happening right now? So I think it was just one of those things where it's just a lot of people, it was in the midst of the Me Too movement as well. So it was a lot of collective, thoughts and feelings. And I think it just resonated.
How does your game, so when things start to take off like that, how does your game plan change from what you're doing? Or did you just stay focused on, hey, this is what we do, let's just keep doing it? Or did things start to shift as it started to explode like that?
No, it didn't shift. It's still the same as what it was. We've shifted here and there, content creating wise, but the main basis of everything is still the same. And because it still does well, it still hits. And I would just say, like, after that viral movement, it was just like, hey, we're doing something right. Let's lean in.
Mm. And as you're creating and as you're doing this, you decide to add in the creative studio at some point along that journey, right? This expansion, what sparked that to happen? Because obviously you're getting 700,000 followers on Sochi Slays, which sounds like something to handle on its own. It could be its full-time job, and you decide to add in the creative studio with all the digital marketing and stuff like that. What causes you to decide to do something like that while you're still building Sochi Slays?
Well, much like how So She Slays kind of just happened, the agency happened. I mean, we Slay a Creative Studio is a social media marketing and creative agency, and we launched that about 2 years ago. But before that, it was on our radar for about a year and a half. And because So She Slays had such success with, everything that we've been able to do, we've had really amazing partnerships and got to work with big companies and small companies. And in doing that, there was a lot of marketing campaign development and content creating and, campaign maintaining and all of this kind of stuff. So I think it was over the pandemic. Chauncey was like, Heather, I think what we're doing is a business. Like, I think people do this. And I was like,
Right.
wait, what? People do this? And it took a little bit of time for us to really flesh out where we wanted to sit in this vast world of marketing and what exactly we wanted to do with it and what made us different. But basically it's just we were already doing it for ourselves, and we were like, we should absolutely just help other people. I mean, So She Slays in itself is about helping, uplifting, amplifying, all of that kind of stuff, right? Being seen, feel like you're being heard, kind of a thing, embracing who you are. And I was like, we should just take that mentality and just shift it over to also include the agency. And how we approach working with people, because as social media develops, as creative content starts developing more, and you start implementing, say for example, AI, right? Everybody's starting to implement AI. It's gonna become a thing, absolutely. But here's the thing that AI can't do: it can't be a real person, and it can't be who you are to your business. And this is why we always say, it's like, with Slay Creative Studios, we're really good at helping people and businesses and brands find their uniqueness.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, oh, there's 5 million social media agencies, there's 5 million, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is like, you have to lean into who you are and how you tell stories and how you can help other people figure out their own uniqueness, and then how they use it to get customers and get sales. I'm like, we did it for ourselves, so I know that we can figure it out for other people, and we have been.
Yeah, that's the thing that so many people miss when they're trying to build something significant, is they lose the heart of like who they are or why they're doing what they're doing inside of it. Because like you said, there's a million digital marketing companies, there's a million podcasts, right? If we could all talk about the same things, but somebody's going to gravitate towards you because of who you are and how you resonate with that person. And if you're not being authentically you, it's really hard to connect with people because they're going to pick up on that inauthenticity. Inauthenticity, I think, is a word.
Yes, that's a word.
So so what is it about you that allowed you to be so authentic in who you are? Were you kind of just raised that way? Is that naturally just you, or did you have to figure that out along the journey?
I think both. I think Chauncey and I have really great families. We're both extremely close to our mothers, and we have whole families and friends full of very strong women. And it's one of those things too where I think it's just part of just who we are as people. And it's part of, and I think what Chauncey and I like to do, and like the rest of us at Social Slays too, because we have like a nice little team, we're very big on making space for that. Like making space to be heard, making space to be like, this is who I am.
What does
And
that look like to make space? What does that mean? How do you actually
I
like
think it's
practically do
just
that?
being understanding. It's asking the questions, honestly. Like the latest example, we're doing a lot of growing at the agency. And uh one of the people that we work with, Danny, she's our director of brand partnerships at So She Slays, and she kind of comes in and consults and helps us do some stuff for the agency here and there too. And she was talking, she's like, look, this is a lot. This is a lot. How are you feeling about this? Are you okay? Do you need a break? Do you need some help? Like, how can I step in? That's what creating space looks like. Being self-aware enough in yourself to be like, I should check in on my friend. Are you okay? Because first and foremost, like, we're all friends. We work together. Yeah. And we have different, I would say aspects that are our expertise that we lean into when working together. But first and foremost, we're friends. And I think when you actually care about someone, then you're just like, okay, well, it seems like you're going through something, or this has been a lot. Do you need help? Or, hey, it's okay, you're not by yourself. I know sometimes it may feel like that, but we signed up here too. So remember, you can lean on us. Because sometimes too, any solo entrepreneur, any entrepreneur in any level of business is going to feel at one time or another that they're in it by themselves, even though they're not. It's one of those things where it's just like, that's just one of the mindsets that you have to be aware of. That it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole, and it takes people to be like, hey, you're not, which is another factor of So She Slays and Slay AF. It's like, you're not alone. Like, there's other people who feel like this.
Yeah, it's really true, especially with guys. So many lone wolf mentalities out there, like that they want to be, that they kind of like idolize or like glorify this lone wolf concept, which is not healthy in any way, shape, or form. And in our society, kind of does build that up as like, they did it all on their own. They created this whole thing by themselves, whatever that might be. And it's such a lie.
It is the biggest
and also,
lie.
And it creates an unhealthy concept of like how you have to do things.
And people think that's the only way to do things, right? And we know dang well that that's not. I feel like it's one of those things. I always tell, like, Chauncey and I, we talk about entrepreneurship. Her and I are very different entrepreneurs. We have very different styles of entrepreneuring. And I'm the type of person where I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I've worked in the film and television industry, in front of and behind the camera, and I've been doing and freelancing and all of this kind of stuff. That has been me. And Chauncey has more of a 9-to-5 type of job, and she does this, when she's off work and this and that or whatever. But people think you have to have one or the other, or you have to have just this one. And it's like, no. As long as the work is done and people feel good and you're trying to pull each other, you're trying to pull your own weight and uplift each other and support and all that kind of stuff, you can make it work. There's a lot of different things happening in other people's lives that maybe they just don't feel good, jumping in. Like, I'm the type of person, I get a nice adrenaline rush and I'm like, it may kill me in the process because I'm stressed out, but I am one of those people where it's just like, I run and I jump and I'm like, well, figure it out before we hit the ground here, people. And then, I don't recommend that for everybody because that's intense. That's a bit much. But Chauncey's not that type of person, whereas she likes to have that 9-to-5 for that security, right? And she's just like, this is how I operate best. But again, it goes back to knowing who you are, self-awareness, how best you work, how best you show up. And as long as things are done and things are getting, we're growing or we're moving in the right direction and people feel supported, then that's fine. It's when that doesn't happen, then you got to come back to the table. And again, you make space to feel heard and feel your feels and talk about it and figure it out.
It sounds like you two have a great balance for one another too, because you could I could see self-sabotaging happen in both ways, with you burning yourself out, with Chauncey maybe not taking as many risks, and you two come in together and like push one another or slow each other down to be more rational and logical, or more risk-taking and adventurous. Like, you need that balance, and most people do not have in themselves that balance. They're usually one or the other. A rare person might have both, but that's really powerful to have. So I want to jump in. We got to shout out the sponsor real quick, the Connected Leaders Academy. 60 seconds to shout them out. When we come back, though, I love asking people questions about life lessons they've had. And the thing that you had told me before we were recording was there was a time when you started second guessing the path in life that you chose for yourself, and it took your therapist reframing your mindset in order to keep going. So I want to dive into that when we come back and how that changed things for you in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
All right. So, Heather, continuing on in this conversation, talking about this lesson that you had, a time when you started to second guess your path that you chose. When did that happen for you in that second guessing? And how did your therapist help you to reframe that situation?
I feel like everybody who kind of challenges the norm or what is expected out of them, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or you're just trying something different, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna have that, am I doing this right? Should I be doing this? Am I making the right decision? That kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm a big advocate for therapy. I think everybody should have therapy. Even when you don't think you need it, you should do it. You find out so much about yourself. And my thing is like, how do you think other people can work with you or get to know you if you don't know yourself? Like, your first priority needs to be that, especially if you're in leadership, or especially if you're in a relationship with anybody like that. That's my little soapbox. I'll get off of it now. But my thing with this is there were several times where I was just like, is this really what I want to do? Like, this is hard, especially in starting an agency. I think where I come in is it's a little bit of ignorance is bliss, right? Because I've done and built certain things where I've like, I had no idea what I was doing at first, but then it's like, oh, I found a mentor, or I broke down step by step what needed to happen in order for such and such goal to be accomplished. But my thing with this agency, this most recent one, where I was just like, I might have bitten off more than I could chew here, people. Like, I don't know if this is for me. Am I making things more complicated than what they need to be? Like, what is going on? There was so much self-sabotage and so much like imposter syndrome happening, especially in the first year of getting this off the ground, where I was just like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I make the right decision? Can I actually do this? Is this really possible? And I was just questioning the heck out of everything. And thankfully, I have really good intuition and I have really great support systems and, therapy, shout out. But it was a lot of reframing. It was a lot of this is your fear talking. This is your fear talking. If other people can do this, Heather, you can do this. It was a lot of, because I know a lot of people go, oh, am I going to regret this? Am I going to regret this decision? And I remember my therapist telling me once, she was like, I have more people sit on my couch about the things that they regret not doing than people sitting here being like, I regret doing that. And so she's like, if that is any, sort of motivation for you just to go after things, do that. Because more people sit on my couch with regrets of not doing what they think they should have done or tried.
Yeah, so true, right? And you're, as long as you sound like somebody who just keeps moving forward, as long as you just keep moving forward, it's going to work out. Like, it might not be exactly how you pictured it to, but the plan is going to become what it's supposed to become. And I think life's an adventure, right? So like we're supposed to take risks. We're supposed to try things. And exactly what you just said, what your therapist said, you're going to regret the things you didn't do. The things that you did do and gave a shot, you're still moving. As long as you're still moving forward, you're still working through those things, and they're seeing their fruition, however that's supposed to be, as time goes on. But there's something you said in there, because I couldn't agree more. Having a therapist, also like having a mentor, being a mentor for somebody, and having a mentor, being a coach for somebody, having a coach, all essential things in our life, because we need to build that self-awareness. And I think when we talked about like authenticity earlier, like you said, how can you really be yourself with somebody else? And how can you really show up authentically until you really know you? And that's what therapy helps you to like discover, like who I actually am. So there's a lot of truth to that. And you were saying about the feelings you were having building the creative studio, building the agency. You know, there's something I told my son a while ago. We were in a jiu-jitsu tournament and he was really scared. And I said to him, Max, are you excited to do this? Number one, because he was like scared to death. I'm like, are you excited? He goes, yeah, I'm excited, Dad. I'm like, you're also scared, right? He goes, yeah, I'm scared. I'm like, well, that's a great place to be, because that means you need to do the thing, because that's where the regrets come from. Regrets come from whenever you're excited about something, but you let the fear beat the excitement, right? So
that's a good one. That is such a good way to break that down.
That fear and excitement tied together, that's a perfect sign you need to go do it. You have to go do this thing. And when he did it, he felt so much better, and he ended up second place in the tournament, and it worked out well for him. So I was just thinking about that. And I'm curious, where do people struggle the most that you see when they're creating, right? So you're helping people launch their platforms for digital marketing, and there's a lot of creative juice that goes into that. And you've also created a brand that has 7,000 followers. I'm sure you've given a lot of advice and seen a lot of people struggle along the way. Where are those places they struggle the most when they are creating something new out of nothing?
Fear, self-sabotage, are the first two things that pop up. Always, what people think, what are people going to think when I post this? Like, what if it's not good? What if it doesn't get likes? What if it doesn't get seen? Anything, all of those questions, right? All of the what ifs that pop up when you try anything new. And what we always end up saying, it's like, look, yeah, it's going to be slow at first, but you got to get started. You got to do something, because it's either you're going to stay here and not do anything and be unhappy, or you're going to try something, and we're going to try and figure it out to where you find your own formula, your own way you want to show up on socials, how you want your brand represented, how you want to actually do social media. Because everybody's like, oh, I can just post and do this and do that. And I was like, yes and no. Like, what if you don't like talking to camera and you don't want to be on videos talking about your brand? Okay, well then now we have to go back to the table and figure out, all right, what else can we do to get this message across? That kind of stuff. So it's like, it's not a one size fits all type of, formula. I wish it was. Lord knows it would be easier, but it's not that way. And so I think people, the first thing that they psych themselves up so much of, what are people going to think? What if it doesn't work? That they just don't even do it. And I always tell people, I'm like, that's the worst thing that you can do. Even if you do something and it sucks, like you at least you did something, and you can at least get some sort of information. Like, okay, this didn't hit as well, but maybe my second post that was a little bit more of, me and personal did better. And I got 5 more likes than I did on the other. Those are all information you can take in with that. And I would say too, it's just like, look, social media is not going anywhere. Like, they're gone are the days where you cannot exist on social media. That is gone. That is not you have to exist on some sort of platform, at least one. And it better be one of the popular ones if you're going to be doing something that way. Because here's the thing is, like, I literally just gave a keynote the other day about how in 2030, which is like, 6 years or something like that, millennial buyers market is $4 trillion. And I did a little experiment, and I was like, because I was talking to people who, Gen X, boomers, a little bit older and all that kind of stuff. I was like, how do you research things when you're trying to find something that's new, restaurant, bar, service, whatever it is that you're looking for? Where do you go? And everybody was like, Google, 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 which is great. There's nothing wrong with Google. But I was like, if you're a millennial, myself and younger, like Google's not the first place you go. It's social media. You're going to go to your Instagram. You're going to go to your TikTok. If we're looking for a restaurant and we were like, oh, I want a Thai restaurant that's like 10 miles away from me, we may go to Yelp or Google to get lists, but then we're going right back to social media. I'm not reading the reviews just yet. I'm going to go look at the food first. And then maybe I'll look at the reviews if I need a third means of vetting or verification or anything like that. So I'm like, you cannot afford to not be on social media.
Yeah, and it's also like unavoidable at the same time, right? So where you were saying before, like if somebody does not want to use video, and some people, and I'm the same way as you, is like I feel like if you're doing video, that's the best that you can do because you can create so many things out of creating videos. But if somebody is totally against it or it just freaks them out too much and they've tried and it's just not for them, what are the other avenues you recommend them going down? Because I know a lot of people that are like that, they really struggle in the video realm. What do you recommend they do?
Well, it depends on what type of service they have. So if it's a product service, I mean, that's when you start working with influencers. You start getting other sort of testimony. You get other people to be on camera for you. If you are a service-based type of thing, that's when you can lean into, again, you can get other people to do it. You can do testimonials. You can show the food. You can explain via text on the video. You don't necessarily have to do, 2 camera presentations. Not a lot of times does that work too. It may work every once in a while, but a lot of people are like, show me this amazing rack of ribs that you're cooking in your barbecue and make me want to be like standing in line for 30 minutes to go get my dang sandwich. Like it's one of those things. There's different ways to go about it. And that's why we're like, oh, we do social media marketing, but it's like, there's a whole other creative side to this. And so it's like, yeah, we'll do creative content for socials, but it's like, okay, social media cannot be your entire marketing funnel. It can be a part of it. And I know I'm getting into jargon here for entrepreneurs and whatnot, but it's like, it cannot be your entire way of marketing something. It can be a part of it, and it can be a powerful part of it, but it should not be the only thing.
Yeah, it needs to be a piece to the puzzle. And there's growth in all of it. And the path that you take is unique to you. And I think, like you said before, just kind of like figure out your authentic voice and who you are and what you're doing and continue on that path. And it can be really hard. So it can be really hard not to compare yourself to others, especially now, especially in the world of social media. With the Sochi Slays platform, you and your partner have carved out like a really unique lane for yourself. How did you not fall into the comparison trap, or did you fall into it for a while and then you found your own unique voice? Was that a part of the journey that you went through?
I think honestly, our social media journey just has changed so much. We do fall into the comparing ourselves. We do fall like, should we be doing more of this? Do we need to be posting this? Do we need to be posting more? We absolutely fall into it. And here's the thing. It's like, I feel like it's a little bit of a give and take in that atmosphere, because it's good to know the market, right? It's good to know what other people are doing and what seems to be working for them. But and what Chauncey actually just pointed out in a meeting we had a few weeks ago is she's just like, it's good to know these things, but too much of those things, too many voices cloud our own judgment, cloud our own way of showing up. And yes, we can take inspiration and tips and maybe things we would like to try, but ultimately, like, we need to lean into who we are still. And so it's a give and take that way. We ourselves go back and forth into it. And it's a lot of times of being aware enough of just taking a step back and being like, does this align or still continue to go with, our mission, what we stand for?
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of that. Like, what if you know what your vision is and you know what you're supposed to be doing? It makes it so easy to not fall into the comparison trap. And as you're starting to grow, you do end up modeling after certain people, and you find things that work, and you're like, oh, I should try this and I should try that. I think that is part of the journey. I don't think very few people have it figured out right from the onset. So you're going to kind of bounce back and forth, like you were saying. It's like if you find yourself getting pulled, and you can tell when you're being pulled too much by other people or other influences, you can feel that happening, and you just need to recheck yourself and bring yourself back to like a balance of who you are and what you're doing. And it's probably really helpful to have a partner like Chauncey with you who helps to figure that out. So one of the biggest things I know working with people has always been clarity, right? Decision making. You seem like somebody who's very decisive and you make quick decisions, and you don't seem to sit there and ponder over if it was the right decision or not.
Mm-hmm.
How do you encourage somebody to just, hey, you got to just go for it, just do it, make a quick decisive decision and move forward? How do you do that, and how do you encourage other people to do that?
For me, well, I've always been a very decisive person, so good read. What I will say with this is it's great to have a goal and a direction, right? A vision. But I think when it comes to making decisions, I make it as simple and as practical as possible. It's like, okay, here's the decision. If I don't make it, what's going to happen? All right, I'm going to stay where I'm at. So, X, Y, and Z, right? If I make the decision, what do we think is going to happen? And that's literally how I approach everything. I'm like, well, I don't like where I'm at, so I got to change that. I can only change that by making a decision. And it's literally that simple. And I feel like the reason why people get stuck is then they think past that. They think the what if, and then we go down all the 5 million different what if, trails that there are. And I'm like, really? We don't know until we actually do it. So how about we just do it, and then we can make another decision to see if it's actually what we want.
It's a great mindset to have. It's really good. And I've talked about it on this podcast before. And this is an area that I love talking about. This is an area that I struggle with in decision making. I know the more decisive I am and the more quickly I make a decision, the better things are. It doesn't mean I have to stay with the decision. It doesn't mean I can't change, but it means I did something to move forward. So there's two kinds of people in the world, right? There's patiently impatient. So patiently impatient people, they're patient to make a decision, and they're impatient to see the result. That's most people. They're patient, like they take forever to decide. And then once they decide, they're impatient to see, is this going to work or not? But an impatiently patient person is somebody who's impatient to act. They quickly make a decision, take an action, and they're patient to see, is this the right thing or is this the wrong thing? I'm going to let this play out and see how it plays out. And that is the best strategy for growth, because you're making decisions quickly and then you're giving it time. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. You can switch it. But at least you made the decision, and now you know, instead of never knowing and taking forever to decide.
Exactly.
And it's a huge strategy that's really, for myself at least, it's something, it's a constant practice of, like, remember, Rob, you need to make a decision and quit screwing around. Just freaking do something. Do anything. Do anything and move
You
forward.
sound like your inner talk right there, like your inner voice. That's me having patience. Remember, Heather, we need to have patience. We literally just did this 2 weeks ago. It's not enough time to make another decision.
Yeah, all right. Very cool. So this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to thank you for coming on. Really, really good stuff. If they want to find out more about you, SoSheSlays.com or SlayAFCreativeStudio.com. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
No, thanks for having me on. And, come join our community if it's interesting to you. Find us on So She Slays on all the socials, or SlayAF Creative on IG.
Very cool. Heather Young, thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you for having me.